Assuming that your U-boat survives the event, if the crew is not unfit, you can expend weapons in exchange for a certain number of victory points to add to your tally.
U-boat leader. Well, let's start with the positives. First, the component quality. DVG has a reputation for really high quality components. I think you'll find with U-Boat Leader, it's no exception. I love the cards, particularly the target cards. They're very evocative of the theme. They really lend to the feeling of being in a dark, cramped U-boat. You feel like you're reading secret bulletins from an Enigma machine. Love the selection of U-boats. The counters, I think, are really well done. I love the artwork. They broke free of the sprue really easily. All my counters are clipped, but that's just because I'm anal. Really, there were only a few counters that needed it at all. The playmats, very sturdy cardstock. I was really happy with the components. Another concept that I really liked was the lag movement phase. It's a mechanic that I thought worked really well in this game. It's that part that simulates the convoy's movement in relation to your U-boat. And you can use that convoy's own movement against it, and makes for some interesting tactical choices. It's very smooth. It just fits. It's a concept I really liked, and I wished had been expanded on a bit. Unfortunately, I hate to do this, but I had some real issues with the game. I played with all of the optional and advanced optional rules that are available on DVG's website. Nevertheless, I frankly found the game way too easy. Once you go through the rules, which are pretty well written, once you go through the rules, once you've gotten familiar with the flow of the game, even with all the optional rules to make the escorts tougher and more unpredictable, I was still able to easily stay out of detection range, launch my torpedoes, and creep off the tactical map. It just didn't present a challenge. I was really disappointed. I figured after a couple of years these problems would have been ironed out. Apparently not. Thematically, I also had some real issues. U-boats, even if they didn't make contact with the enemy, even if they still had torpedoes to fire, they couldn't stay out on patrol forever. They would consume fuel, the crew would consume supplies, they would become fatigued from being stuck in that U-boat for weeks on end, and the U-boat itself would suffer wear and tear just from bouncing around in the North Atlantic for long periods of time. And what the designer has done here is abstracted all of that out into just this generic stress. And what that served to do for me personally was continually break me out of the narrative. You turn over event cards as you move through the patrol map, and you're basically just rolling dice to determine whether or not you're going to add a stress counter to your U-boat or not. It seemed arbitrary, it seemed perfunctory. For example, You have a convoy encounter and you plan out your approach and you sneak past the escorts and you avoid detection and you launch that spread of torpedoes into that big juicy tanker and sink it, and you manage to creep off into the darkness without being detected. I envision the crew breaking out into the Tipperary song and the skipper doling out the schnapps. Indeed, the morale would have been very high. But no, not in U-Boat Leader. You add a stress marker. Okay. I mean, I understand what the designer was trying to do here, but like I said, for me, it just kind of clubbed me over the head with the fact that, oh, I'm not immersed in this epic struggle in this narrative. I'm running a system and doing arithmetic. Additionally, every ship in the game has its own specific counter. And I understand that the idea is to immerse you in the game and make it feel more realistic. I appreciate the intent. Once you've played through a few turns, though, and have the flow down, every time you set up a convoy and reveal ships, I found myself hunting for the Canadian Reefer, hunting for the Adamastos, and it became a time-consuming pain in the rear. Perhaps maybe generic ship markers, medium freighter, small freighter, could have been used to kind of smooth out the flow of the game a bit. Back to the stress markers real quick. Things like fuel consumption, crew fatigue, combat damage for the submarine. I'm not a game designer, but seems to me those kinds of things could have been tracked separately without adding a bunch of unneeded complexity to the game. I want to point out that I spent quite a bit of time with this game. I played every campaign scenario, all different combinations of U-boats, from wolf packs to single U-boat attacks. I guess what I'm trying to say is I gave this game every chance I could. I really wanted to come on here and tell you how wonderful it was, but unfortunately I can't. It's currently on pre-order on DVG for $55.99. You add shipping onto that, probably bring it up to 65, 70 bucks. If this thing is going to be reprinted, boy, I'll tell you what, it really, I hope that they invested some real time in retooling it. It's a shame. The core of a really brilliant game is there. It just felt kind of pushed out. I think this game probably would have benefited from a lot more development and much more extensive play testing, or maybe a broader group of play testers. I don't know. But I was very disappointed. I'm sorry I can't recommend this game. I don't like giving a negative review. I think the hardcore wargamer is not going to be challenged by this game at all. And I think the casual gamer is probably going to find this game too long. Even a short scenario is going to run you. It ran me about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes. You get into the medium and long versions of each campaign, you're looking at 3-4 hours. So again, if this game is, there's so much potential here. If this game is coming out in a reprint, I really hope they did some serious rebuilding on it first. In any case, that's my review for U-Boat Leader from Dan Versen Games. Thank you for joining me. Until next time, happy gaming.